Bezras Hashem. Tonight's daf is daf tes. So we're going to begin from the Mishnah. It's the beginning of the second parak. Okay, we learned. Okay, very simple. We learned that a person who says, let's say, Hareini Nazir, let's say I want to be a Nazir just from grapes. So you can't be a Nazir. It's a package deal, Naziris. So Naziris, you're a Nazir. If you just say I'm a Nazir from grapes, you're not allowed to drink wine. You're not allowed to cut your hair. You're not allowed to be metama l'mesim. Okay, those are the things. You can't just single out, I want to do one thing of Naziris. So the Mishnah starts off with a case that really has absolutely doesn't make sense. He says, Hareini Nazir, I want to be a Nazir, min Gregris umin hadvela. Gregris is dried figs, and devela is pressed figs. So it makes no sense. It's like saying, I want to be a Nazir from potato chips. It makes no sense what he's saying. Hareini Nazir min Gregris umin hadvela. So Beis Shammai says you're a Nazir. Okay, you're automatic Nazir. So Beis Shammai needs a hesber explanation. He said, I want to be a Nazir from dried figs. Why is he a Nazir? Beis Hillel says he's not a Nazir. He's not only not a Nazir, but he's also not usher on dried figs. So this whole thing makes no sense. And Beis Hillel is the more logical one because his expression makes absolutely no sense. So Beis Shammai says you become a full-fledged Nazir. Even though you said, I'm a Nazir from dried figs. Rabbi Yehuda says not so. He says, Af kish amru Beis Shammai, even when Beis Shammai said, you're a Nazir from dried figs, Loi amru ela ba'omer harei alhein alai carbon. He only said that you're usher, you're not a Nazir. He just said that you're basically saying, I want to be a Nazir, I want to be usher like with a neder on dried figs. So we change his words from Nazir to Neder, and basically he's not a Nazir, according to Beis Shammai, but really he's usher just to eat dried figs. And the word Nazir could also mean like a Neder, because the word Nazir means I want to be separate. Like Kot Koin Nazir Echav, we had in Parshas Vayechi, Nazir means someone who's separated. So basically he's saying in another like kinui, that he wants to have a neder on dried figs. That's why Beis Shammai says you're Nazir. And Beis Hillel says that's not the right language. You don't use Nazir to say neder, so therefore you're not a neder at all. Al Kaponim, what matters most is the Tanakama's understanding of Beis Shammai, that Beis Shammai holds that when you say Hareini Nazir from dried figs, you become a Nazir. So now let's jump into the Gemara. Amma Hareini Nazir min Gregris min devela. You want to be a Nazir from dried figs. So Beis Shammai says, Nazir, according to the Tanakama understanding of Beis Shammai, is you are Nazir. So the Gemara's first question is, Va'amai, how could you be a Nazir? A Nazir is not usher on dried figs. He's only usher on grapes. Mikol ashe oseh megefen hayayin. Anything that can be made from the vine that can make wine. That's what you're usher on grapes, on the seeds of grapes, but not dried figs. So why did Beis Amar Rachman? That's what the Torah said. So why did Beis Shammai say that you become a Nazir? So the understanding of the Gemara is, and the Gemara doesn't finish it out until the end of the page, but basically, Beis Shammai sabri like Rab Meir. Beis Shammai holds like Rab Meir, the Omar, who said a comment, Ein oder moitzi dvarav levatara. A person will not say his words for nonsense. If he said Hareini Nazir, let's say Mina Gregris, Beis Shammai is going to learn that he didn't make a nonsense statement. He meant to say, I want to become a Nazir. That's what Rab Meir's opinion is. For example, Rab Meir has an opinion that someone who says on let's say a glass or a cup, and he says Erki Alai. There's no such a thing of saying Erechin on a cup. The Torah says you can say I want to Erech on a baby or on a human being, but not on a cup. So when a person says that, he's basically saying, I want to donate the value of a cup to the Beis Hamikdash. But the point over here is Beis Shammai holds like Rab Meir, and Rab Meir holds a person doesn't say nonsense words. So Beis Shammai says he must be a Nazir because he can't be saying I want to be usher just on dried figs, because that's not what Nazir means. So therefore Beis Shammai says you become a Nazir. Beis Hillel holds ki Rab Yosi. Beis Hillel also holds he didn't make a nonsense word. He also agrees that when a person makes a statement, you got to take him seriously. But here, and it's a beautiful thing, according to Beis Hillel, the understanding is you're saying Hareini Nazir, stop. I want to become a Nazir. And then you regret it. And you're saying mina groigris, mina devela. You want to be you said, I don't want to be a Nazir. I just want to be a Nazir from groigris and devela. In other words, that's your way of retracting of what you said. And Rabbi Yossi holds that if a person makes a statement and right afterwards he regrets his statement, you have to take his latter statement seriously as well. The Amma begvar devorav adam nitvas. You look at what he said last, and what he said last was that he wants not to be a Nazir because he just said, "Oh, I want to be a Nazir from Groigris and Devela." So basically, he's saying, I'm retracting this whole business of Naziris. I should be also only on potato chips. It makes no sense. So basically, he was retracting his words. So we look at his statement as a double statement. First, he said, Hareini Nazir, I want to become a Nazir. And then he said, no, I want to be also only on Groigris. So we say that we take your latter words seriously, and that you retracted your earlier statement of becoming a Nazir. And Bahai, in this situation, neder, you have a neder, upischa imahi, and that you have the opening, you have the regret. And that's why Beis Hillel says, because you regretted it, that's why you're not a Nazir. So the Gemara asks a question, then why wouldn't Beis Shammai agree to that? If it's a double clause statement, then Beis Shammai should also agree to that. Beis Shammai, nami neder pischa imahu. According to Beis Shammai, it should be a neder, and you're retracting it. So why do Beis Shammai say you ignore his backpedal of retraction? Ella, so the Gemara explains like this, that there's a good reason why Beis Shammai doesn't agree that you could retract from a neder, from a nazir. Fascinating. You're going to say, I'm a nazir. According to Beis Shammai, you can never retract, because Beis Shammai holds that anything to do with holiness, there's no backsies. If you say, I'm donating something to the Beis Hamikdash, right? You can't go to a rabbi and say, oh, I want to undo the donation. I want to undo my hegdish. Beis Shammai says there's no shaila by hegdish. You can't undo what a commitment that you made to hegdish. And putting upon yourself to become a nazir is like making yourself holy. It's darshan from a pasuk kodesh yiyah. And therefore, according to Beis Shammai, you can't retract it. Retracting it is basically saying, I made a mistake. And Beis Shammai holds there are no mistakes when it comes to hegdish. And that's why Ela Beis Shammai savri lo karameir da'ama ein oda moitzi dvar levatola. Beis Shammai holds like Rameir that a person does not utter a sentence for naught. So we have to take him seriously. And again, it's a double statement over here. The cave in the Omer, since you say Hareini Nazir, I want to become a Nazir. Havile Nazir, automatically at that second, you're a Nazir. And then even if right away you say, I want to be a Nazir from dried figs and pressed figs, it doesn't matter because you're trying to retract it. You're trying to backpedal what you just said for becoming as Nazir. Beis Shammai goes according to his reasoning. The Amar who said, "Ein she'ela behegdish." You can't retract your statement from hegdish. Even the ein she'ela behegdish, since you can't retract with hegdish. Let's say I make a donation to hegdish, you can't take it back. So the same idea is ein she'ela benaziris. You can't retract a nazira statement. In other words, it's not like the language she'ela means I'm asking a rabbi to undo it. It's the same idea. I can't retract my statement right away and say, I don't want to be a Nazir. As soon as you said you want to be a Nazir, done. That's it's finished. You're over. And therefore, even if you said, oh, I only want to be a Nazir from it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that is the understanding. That is the understanding of who? Of Beis Shammai. Of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel, what does Beis Hillel hold? Savre, they hold you could retract. So now the only question according to Beis Hillel is when you said Hareini Nazir, right on the air, you're a Nazir. Then if you retract right away and say, oh, I want to be a Nazir only from dried figs, okay, you're not a full-fledged Nazir. But why aren't you Asr from dried figs? Beis Hillel holds ain't a Nazir and it's not even a neder. you're permitted to eat dried figs. But let us say that now he's retracting and saying, I don't want to be a Nazir and usher on wine, but I want to have a neder that it makes me usher on dried figs. So why does Beis Hillel say you're nothing? So Beis Hillel Sabrek Rab Shimon answers the Gemara. Beis Hillel will hold like Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon poiter shlo hisnadev kederech hamisnadevim. We're going to learn about Rab Shimon in a moment. But Rab Shimon holds that if you use the wrong language, it's not your words are discounted at all. And basically, according to what you're trying to say, is I want to be a nazir just from dried figs. Well, that's not the normal way to make a neder. So therefore, according to Beis Hillel, you're not a nazir and you now don't have a neder on dried figs. So that's how we understand our Mishnah. It's a person, it was backpedaling. So according to Beis Shammai, once you said Hareini Nazir, there's no backsies. That's it. There's no backsies. And therefore, if you try to retract your statement, doesn't work. That's why you're Nazir. Beis Hillel holds you could retract your statement. And not only you retracted from becoming a Nazir, you're not also on dried figs because you basically said the word Nazir. I want to be a Nazir from dried figs, and that's the wrong language. But both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both hold that a person doesn't say his words in vain. We have to take whatever comes out of your mouth very seriously. Now we go to Amid Beis. So the Mishnah, the Gemara says, Masnisin deloy kahaitana. Our Mishnah's understanding of the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai holds what? You're a nazir. It's not a neder. You're a nazir. And Beis Hillel holds you're nothing. You don't have any prohibition on you. You have no oath on you. But there's another understanding of the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. The Tanya we learned in a brisa. Rab Nosson Oimer. Rab Nosson says Beis Shammai says, you are a nadir v'nazir. You're either or. You're a nadir, you're us on figs, or you're a nazir. And basically, according to Beis Shammai, the way Rab Nosson understands Beis Shammai is you ask the guy, what would you rather be? What did you mean? Did you really want to become a nazir? Then if he says yes, he's a nazir. If he says no, I wanted to retract or something like that, then we say you're usher on dried figs. That's what Beis Shammai is going to hold. And Beis Hillel says, Nadir, you're only usher on dried figs. There ain't nazir and you're not a nazir. So that's totally not our understanding in our Mishnah. I
know that has nothing to do with the figs. I know it's only for wine and for grapes, but no has to do with this. He said he didn't mean on grapes. He didn't have a mind of grapes. He had only wine.
Yes, okay, but the fact is, at gezukt, Hareini Nazir min haroigres min advela. I want to be a Nazir from dried figs. Yes, Nazir could also mean, the word Nazir could also mean I want to be separate. Nazir doesn't mean like always a Nazir with the long hair and osa and yain. Here, we could touch it up that he meant to say Nazir ich will upscheiden. I want to be separate from, so it's like a neder. And that's why
he's another native, for this.
Yeah, but sometimes he says the wrong word, but we understand what he means. So Beis Shammai savala Rab Meir. Beis Shammai says hold like Rab Meir that a person you have to take whatever comes out of his mouth seriously. Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who said that according to Rabbi Yehuda that Beis Shammai holds you're not a nazir. If he says, I never wanted to be a Nazir, he's not a Nazir, but it's a Neder. Beis Hillel Savrei, and Beis Hillel holds also Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda, that he at least, for sure not a Nazir, but he's only Aser B'Neder. So that's not our Tana of our Mishnah understanding of what the Machlokes is. But Lishna Achrina, there's another shot. Amri. Rab Nosson Omer, Rab Nosson says, this is what Rabbi Yehuda said, that Beis Shammai, the Rab Nosson and Rabbi Yehuda said that in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda said that Beis Shammai never said you're Nazir. Beis Shammai only held you're Nadir, you're Aser, ve'ein a Nazir, you're not a Nazir at all. Beis Hillel loy Nadir, v'loy Nazir. You're not anything. You're not Aser you're not a Nazir, and you're certainly not, and you're also not Aser on the dried figs. So Beis Shammai is Rabbi Yehuda. Beis Shammai's understanding is like Rabbi Yehuda explained, like Rabbi Yehuda. and therefore we assign a isser for him at least for dried figs. Beis Hillel is Reb Shimon, and Beis Hillel is like Reb Shimon, like Yankel wants to say that a person used the wrong language. If you use the wrong language, lo yisnadev kederach hamisnadvim. If you use the wrong language, that means you're not aser.
No.
As I that is the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Now for the rest of the page, very simple, to the bottom of the page, and that's the daf, is the Gemara wants to understand who is the Tana of a certain Mishnah in Menachos. Tanan Hasam, we learned the Masechta Menachos. A person says, Harei alai mincha lahavi min hasa'orim. I want to bring a present, a mincha, to the Eibishter, and it has to be from barley. Now, there's no donation in the Torah that you can say, I want to make a barley mincha. There's no such a thing. There's no such a thing that you can make a barley mincha. It only comes, like say, minchas oimer or minchas soita, certain times where you're obligated, but you can't say, I want to make a donation of a mincha of sa'orim. So he said the wrong thing. So Yavi minachitim, he's obligated to bring a mincha from wheat. So he said the wrong thing, and he's obligated to bring the mincha from wheat. So that's the Beis Shammai, because Beis Shammai says if you say I'm a nazir I'm a nazir, and then you say I want groigris and devela, we take what you said earlier as the right thing. You're a nazir, and therefore he said arei alai mincha means he's obligated to bring a regular mincha. And then he says the wrong thing, we ignore what he said the wrong, or if he's trying to retract it, we just totally ignore it. And Yavei min achitim, he just brings a regular from the chitim. So Kemach, if he says Arei alai, I want to bring it from a not fine flour, Yavei soilis, we obligate him to bring it from fine flour. If he says I want to bring a mincha shloi b'shemen u'levayna, I want to bring a mincha without bringing oil and the levayna and the frankincense, too bad. You have the Anna B'Shem and Levina. You're obligated to bring it with oil and Levina. If you say, I want to bring half the amount, Chatzi Isarain, a half a Isarain, Yavi Isarin Shalom, you have to bring a whole amount. If he says Isarin Mechza, Yavi Shnaim, he has to bring two. In other words, even though he says the wrong things, I want to bring a mincha, but not the way the Torah said to bring the mincha, we say you're obligated to bring a mincha the way the Torah said you could donate a mincha. Because we ignore your conditions. Rab Shimon Paiter. Rab Shimon says you don't have to bring anything. You didn't make the right donation. The right donation is to say, I want to bring a mincha made of wheat, made of with oil and levina, with isarin. Or just say, I want to bring a mincha the way the Torah said I should bring a mincha. But if you start adding your own conditions, so you're not making the commitment donation the way you're supposed to. And therefore, Rab Shimon totally says you're not obligated to bring anything. So who is the author of the first Tana? Who is the author of that you are obligated? So Mantana, who is the author of the first part of the Mishnah? The Chi Omar, when a person says, Arei alai mincha min hasa'orim, you say, I want to bring a mincha, but I want to do it from barley. You may be min achitim, you have to do it right from the chitim. So Omar Chizkiah said, obviously, it's Beis Shammai, like we know this learned machlokes uBeis Shammai, because that's exactly what our Mishnah is. Lav Amri Beis Shammai, didn't Beis Shammai said if a person says I want to become a nazir, and then he says from dried figs, ki oma min hagroigros min advela, he said from dried figs and from pressed figs, you ignore what he said later. Have a nazir, he's a regular nazir, so you ignore his conditions that changed what he originally said. Also over here, he said, I want to bring a mincha. Well, the only way to bring a mincha is the way the Torah says to bring a mincha, which is out of wheat. So therefore, when he says, I want to just bring it from barley, we ignore that part. Maybe menachitim, you bring it from the chitim. So Chizkiah right away says that the author of the Tana of that Mishnah in Menachos is according to Beis Shammai. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you can say that Mishnah goes even according to Beis Hillel. Now, why could that Mishnah go according to Beis Hillel? The guy said, I want to bring a mincha, but I'm doing it on the wrong conditions. Beis Hillel should be like Rab Shimon, who holds that you putter. So the Gemara says that Beis Hillel would agree to that, says Rabbi Yochanan, because There, you can say it's an honest mistake. And therefore, over here by Nazir, everybody knows a Nazir is not usher on dried figs. So if you said, I want to be a Nazir on dried figs, so you mean nothing. It means nothing. That's why Basil says in our Mishnah, you're nothing. You didn't do a neder or a Nazir. But over there, it could be an honest mistake. You thought that you could bring a mincha from barley. You see, the Torah in certain situations requires the tzibur or requires an individual to bring a barley type of mincha by a saita, but it's a certain situation. And therefore, if a person says, if I would have known that you can't donate a barley type of mincha, I wouldn't have said barley, elakach, I would have said wheat. So when we ask him, when we pin him down, he said that certainly I would have wanted to bring a wheat. I just thought when I was making the neder that you could bring it from barley. It's an honest mistake. So therefore, you're required to bring a regular mincha, even according to Beis Hillel. But in our Mishnah, when a person says, I want to be a Nazir from dried figs, it's not even an honest mistake. So you can't explain himself. So his words are meaningless. And that's why Beis Hillel says in our Mishnah, you're not a Nazir. Now the Gemara is going to just say that Chizkiah is going to backpedal and agree to Rabbi Yochanan's understanding that Mishnah in Menachos goes even according to Beis Hillel. Because Amar Chizkiah said, Lo Shana wasn't taught Ela she'Amar min ha'sa'orim. Only if you said, I want to make the mincha from barley. So then it seems what he's saying is that it's an honest mistake. So then you're obligated to bring a mincha from wheat. Let's say originally you said, I want to bring a mincha from lentils. Well, there's nowhere in the Torah a mincha of lentils. So obviously it's not even an honest mistake. You said a nonsense thing. Loy ma'isi v'loy klom. You don't have to bring anything. So that's what Chizkiah said on that Mishnah. So the Gemara understands, well, but according to Chizkiah, if you said that Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai, it shouldn't matter. Michte, Chizkiah, Kaman, Moikel, Masnisen. Who did Chizkiah say that Mishnah goes according to? That Mishnah that says, who wants to bring a mincha of barley, he said it's Beis Shammai. And now, v'ha'adashim l'gabe mincha kegroigers l'gabe nazir dami. By saying, I want to bring a mincha from lentils, it's almost like saying, I want to be a nazir from dried figs, which means that it's not even an honest mistake. It's obviously not an honest mistake. You just look at his first statement. I want to be a nazir. I want to bring a mincha. And therefore, you should be obligated to bring that mincha. Become a Beis Shammai, have a nazir. Beis Shammai says you're a nazir. So even if you say that Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai, so even if you would say, I want to bring a mincha from lentils, you should be obligated to bring a mincha of lentils. So why did Beis Chizkiah say that no, if you said, I want to bring a mincha of lentils, you're potter on everything? Chizkiah said that part of the Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai. So the Gemara says, Chizkiah retracted and said that part of the Mishnah goes according to Beis Hillel, not according to Beis Shammai. And what is the reason why Chizkiah retracted? It said that part of the Mishnah does not go according to Beis Shammai. Rabbi said, he had a question on the Mishnah. Why did the Mishnah say that you said, I want to bring a mincha from barley, which you could interpret as an honest mistake? Listen, let it say the bigger chiddush, min hadashim, that even if you say, I want to bring a mincha from lentils, you're still obligated to bring a mincha. Since the Mishnah did not stress the bigger chiddush, it must be the Mishnah doesn't hold of the bigger chiddush. So there must be that the Mishnah does not go like Beis Shammai, it must go like Beis Hillel. And only if it's an honest mistake, where there are some minchas that could be brought from barley, then you say you're obligated to bring a mincha. Chizkiah hold, well, we don't have to say this part of the Mishnah. So Chizkiah holds that Mishnah goes according to Beis Hillel. Okay, you could skip this part. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, now the Gemara says what Rabbi Yochanan said. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Fila min hadashim. Rabbi Yochanan said that even if you made them say, I want to bring a mincha, even from lentils, you're still obligated to bring a mincha. Wait a second. Rabbi Yochanan interpreted the Mishnah according to Beis Hillel. The Beis Hillel only said you're obligated if it's an honest mistake, that you could possibly, we could give you a reason why you could have mixed it up. But here, if you said, I want to bring a mincha from lentils, that's saying I want to bring a mincha from licorice. Nobody makes such a mistake. So why would Rabbi Yochanan say that Mishnah would say that even if you said, I want to bring it from lentils, you're obligated to bring a mincha. But Rabbi Yochanan, who Rabbi Yochanan requires that in order for you to be obligated to bring the mincha, you have to give an excuse why you said such a statement. And if you have no logical reason, then we just disregard what you said, and you're not obligated to bring anything at all. So what does Rabbi Yochanan mean at all? So the answer is Rabbi Yochanan wasn't referring to himself. Rabbi Yochanan says, certainly, if you said min adashim, you don't have to bring any mincha. But he's just responding to Chizkiah. Chizkiah, you interpreted the Mishnah according to Beis Shammai, then you're right. Even from an adashim, you would still be obligated to bring a mincha. And he's saying to Chizkiah, you didn't even have to retract. If you say that the Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai, you could still hold your position. The devar of the Chizkiah who the Ka'ama. Rabbi Yochanan was saying, even according to he was just standing in place of Chizkiah. You said that Mishnah in Menachos goes according to Beis Shammai. You're correct, but you're still correct. Don't retract your statement. At my time, why did you retract? Why? Because it doesn't say the bigger chiddush that even from adashim you're still obligated to bring a mincha. If you say arein a mincha from adashim, Dilma, maybe loy miboye kama. Maybe it's less of a chiddush, because loy miboye. Not only this, he oma me adashim. When you say adashim, the ma'asim mincha mal yisa. If the Mishnah would say, the guy said areini mincha, and I want to bring it from lentils. Certainly, the Mishnah would obligate him to bring a mincha, a regular mincha made of wheat. The ikal I could have said, he's trying to retract what he said. First, he says, I want to bring a mincha. Of course, that means wheat. Then he came up with another name, adashim, lentils. So he's trying to retract. Of course, twice lashon rishon. Beis Shammai says there's no backsies when you're donating something to the Beis Hamikdash. So of course we understand what you're saying. Hareini mincha, you're obligated to bring a mincha made of wheat. But the bigger chiddush is the bigger novelty is eliki oma min hasa oirin, when you said that I want to bring a mincha, but it should be from barley. So maybe you should bring since it's a mistake, maybe vade hachi kamar. He's trying to say like this: if it's possible to bring a barley type of mincha, like the oimer mincha, we go to the top oike mincha soita, like the mincha of soita, then tigdosh. Then I want it to be holy. Eloi, if it's not possible, loi, it should not be holy. So if you said from barley, hareini mincha and soirim, possibly you don't have to bring anything, because possibly this is what you meant. I want to bring a mincha of barley if it's possible to bring a mincha of barley like a soita could bring, or like the oimer is required to bring. And if not, I don't want to bring anything. Let's interpret it that way. Kamash Malon, that's why the Mishnah says that no, we don't interpret it that way. You said hareini mincha, you want to bring a mincha of wheat, and then you want to retract it. We look at what you said originally. You want to bring a mincha, it has to be a regular mincha of wheat, the way the Torah required you. The ma'isi min hachitim, you bring it from chitim. So basically, to look back on this daf of daf ches is basically to understand one thing, that there's a machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And Beis Shammai says that when a person says something in hegdish or naziris, there's no backsies. You can't retract. And Beis Hillel says no. If right away you want to retract by naziris, you could retract. And then the Gemara just tried to understand who the author of a Mishnah in Masechta Menachos. It seems that it goes according to Beis Shammai. That's why Chizkiah interpreted it. And Rabbi Yochanan said even according to that Mishnah could go even according to Beis Hillel. When did Beis Hillel say you could retract? If you could say, if it's totally you're saying something nonsensical, like you said hareini nazir, and then you retracted it by saying I want to be usher on figs or dried figs. But if by the case of the mincha, when you said Harei Alai Mincha, and then you said, I want to bring it from barley, if you reconfirm that what you really meant to say is that I really wanted to bring a mincha, because I thought that you could bring it from barley, but if I would have known that you could only bring it from wheat, I would have said you could bring it from wheat. So then, even according to Basil, you're required to bring the mincha from wheat. And it's a whole interpretation of what the Gemara understood in Masechta Menachos, but it's a side point of what we learned today.